Hello there, welcome back to Yellow Turbans Abridged. Last time we spent a lot of the episode chasing Lu Bu around and we eventually got him but didn't achieve much else. However, our secondary army did take a few territories for us in the south with not that much going on down there. And now we're going to get back on track and push forwards. The problem is that Yuan Shu has started invading Chang'an, the capital region, and more armies are also gathering up there. So we need to try and get Gong back down there to secure our gains and then potentially counterattack these new foes. To get there I need to go through Anding Commandery and I plan to conquer it on the way. There's a big army from Lu Bu there, and my strategy was just to walk past it, and this seemed to work pretty effectively. They didn't chase me or anything, so I was able to take the Anding large town without a fight. But now I'm actually going to go back because I do want to take down that army, take the rest of Anding and try to end the war with Lu Bu. Here's another bit of cheeky diplomacy. Huang Shi has decided to get Sun Jian in on a war with me. I'm not sure who Huang Shi is. I think it might be the descendant of Huang Zu, which is a faction that starts near Sun Jian. Something's going on there. For some reason one of them's at war with me and now they both are. Hopefully nothing will come of that. Jiang Kai has been wrestling tigers according to that message. That's got to be good for morale. You can see the build-up near the capital has turned into a standoff. The enemy don't have the strength to attack me, so we're just staring at each other, which I guess is okay, since both sides are just wasting their time. Down in the south, I've spent like 5 turns gradually walking towards Liu Jiang's last settlement, and we are finally arriving here. The problem is he had the audacity to recruit some troops, so he actually has some men, and there's an okay garrison here as well, so we don't have the advantage. Not sure if the lumberyard type place gets towers, but I couldn't be bothered to find out. I just decided to starve them out. And they are going to sally, so we'll see them pretty soon. I'm also going to do this against the Lu Bu army in Anding. I put an ambush on the road between their current position and the large town I just took, meaning that if they want to go and retake it, they'll have to walk past my ambush, and as it happens, it does work out that way. Very nice. So now this big decisive battle will start with us having the advantage. We'll ambush them with our full force, and we can make it a night attack on top of that. So presuming that ambush also gives you a morale debuff on top of night attack, these guys are just going to be ready to go right as the battle starts. It's not really going to be possible to cover what's going on in this fight because it's going to be very fast and very brutal, but broadly speaking, I tried to have my cav charge into their archers and my melee infantry into their spears and their melee infantry, and at the front of the column I tried to have Gong just take down the enemy's commander as quickly as possible. We did suffer a few losses though. This one unit here, the Militia of Virtue, turned out to be terrible. They're a unit that has all of their stats in morale, so I guess they're sort of like a tank unit, only they don't have defensive stats, so I'm not quite sure what the point of them is. Elsewhere, everything's just a huge slaughter. We lost quite a few men in the melees just because the enemy troops are good, but overall it's going to be fine. And one thing I wanted to note is that at some point in this campaign we switched from filming in the review build to the release build. And looking at the animations close up, the aggression of troops has been dramatically increased in that it's gone from they're usually not fighting each other to they usually are fighting each other. This makes the game a bit more extreme, in that if you're doing well, you'll do even better because when enemy units rout, they just get taken out. But the same thing can happen to you. I'm guessing they had the non-aggressive style for the review build to make it more forgiving and to prevent anyone having any sourness over the game or something, but now it seems to be back in action and more similar to the older games, so that should be useful for our campaign at least. The game has given us a close victory, being cheeky as ever. Someone mentioned in the comments it's because it considers the loss of ammunition to be losses on your side. It's some sort of strange effect like that, and that's why it thinks that both sides lost about the same amount, even though we absolutely annihilated them. So that's the end of that. Soon we'll be able to auto-resolve the remnants to death. But first, here's that siege sally I mentioned. Just going to be our not very good army against the enemy's not that good but slightly better than ours army. Although we will have the defender's advantage to play with at least. Not that I used that advantage particularly well in this fight actually, as you'll see. My plan was to have one unit of cav ambushing on the right and everything else just stands around. The only added factor is that there's this village area which is all impassable, so by standing next to it my left flank is protected. The thing is, I could have actually walked around the back of the village and set up here so that my right flank was protected and that I wasn't downhill from the enemy. However, the only reason I didn't do that was a meta reason. It's that I usually spend the first 5 minutes of each fight on Twitter after the long loading screen as well, so I just sit there waiting for the enemy to show up and don't really maneuver. So that's why, not a very good reason, but just telling you what it is. So the fight starts with the archers exchanging arrows. I'm fine to let my archers die because they are worse. I'd rather they die than my men. And once the enemy get a bit closer, I start charging up with the melee infantry to get a fight going. We're going to have mixed results in this fight. Our swords might beat their spears, but their swords can beat my swords. And their cavalry, which were in the centre of their melee line in an unusual twist for the AI, charged right through some of my swords and just wiped out one unit right away. Luckily I had spears nearby to plug that gap, but still, very unfortunate for my men. Again, probably should have actually been paying attention. At least the main strategy is going to go off without much of a hitch, and that is to just send all of my cav to annihilate the enemy's archers, no problems there. And I even had some spare men to go around the back of the enemy line and attack, only peasant spearmen, so they're not really going to do very much, but it will provide a morale debuff and mean they're easier to beat from the front at the same time. There's Liu Jiang himself getting absolutely annihilated by archers and my cav chasing him down, and he ends up trying to back attack my men who were backing attack his men. But now he's being back attacked by my general and he's fighting spears at the front. Not ideal. You can see my line is under pressure. The enemy just have way more men than us, and our forces are gradually being depleted along the front line. So it's time to end this using our cavalry advantage. Just need to hit all of these units in the back, and if routing is now working correctly now, the unit will be destroyed because it's surrounded rather than escaping and coming back to the fight in a minute. So that should be everything on that left flank sorted. On our right flank it didn't work quite as well because my charge just didn't rout the enemy. We are charging into spearmen here with exhausted cav. But overall things are starting to go our way now. We're still marauding in the enemy's back line. Some of their centre is just routing due to losses taken. My guys were also on the verge of routing, but we got away with it, perhaps because our general's better or something. And as the units rout, I'm going to send my peasant archers into melee to chase them down to make sure they don't come back. There's really no other use for peasant archers, so that's fine. And soon everything routed and the battle is pretty much ours. I was looking here to test my theory that routing units actually die, and actually looking here, it doesn't seem like they get killed that quickly. Maybe it's because all these units are kind of crammed together. There has to be some space for an animation to play. Most of our guys are ignoring the enemies right next to them. Just one or two men are trying to attack. At least when they think they're targeting the enemy, they do appear to target them more effectively. That's all I can anecdotally say. Whatever the case, we killed them all in the end. We did have to play most of the rout phase because Liu Jiang's unit was unbreakable, so I had to kill him down to the last man. And finally, once that's done, it's a close victory. Probably closer to a close victory than some of the close victories we've seen recently, but still perfectly decisive. Liu Jiang is dead, and most of the troops defending his last settlement are dead, so that's another one auto-resolve away from the faction being destroyed situation. So let's get on with it then. Here at the start of the next turn, quick auto resolve, and that's going to be the end of Liu Jiang, now called something else, Liu Zichun by the looks of things. And we've now secured peace actually in the south. We're not at war with anyone on our southern border after that, so that's very nice. A rare thing for us indeed. Up north, Gongdu is going to do something a bit similar to the settlement that we just destroyed the army from. It did have something of a garrison, but again, not really worth fighting, so we'll just take the auto-resolve and in we go. That's Anding Commandery secured. What I should have done right now was try to get overall peace with Lu Bu, and I seem to think that was my original goal, because I am of course trying to go down to the capital, but I probably forgot, and that's why I didn't do it. That's the sort of thing I would do. So I go forwards another turn, and it turns out Lu Bu has another full army. I don't know how Lu Bu is so strong. He's only got 2 settlements. I'm guessing it's something to do with him vassalizing the Han Empire. He's getting loads of money through all the various Han territories all across the map. So he's supporting a very big army off not very much territory at all. And now they're threatening our territory in the west, and we're going to have to double back on ourselves once again. Our main army's still not going to be very effectively used in this regard, but it's probably better to go take out that army than just let it rampage through our territory while we rampage through theirs. So we'll get moving. We couldn't reach them this turn, which was a shame because they were both in a forced march. In the south, with nothing else for our force to do, I decided to try this. Like in Attila, there are areas on the map that aren't built up. There are no settlements in certain regions. And just like in Attila, if you send an army to go stand there, you can make a settlement. So we can expand our empire without conquering anything in this fashion. So I thought I'd try that out to see how it works. I'm also setting up, ready to declare war on the Han Empire, but that's actually not going to happen, as we'll see shortly. Now, one more end turn goes by, and unfortunately, Le Bu does attack the livestock farm here, and there's not much we can do. We're slightly too far away to reinforce by the looks of things. Gonna have to just let them take it. Not that much of a big deal, because in principle, we can just do the same thing and immediately take it back. Now, we see their main force disappears there, and this is an advantage the player has over the AI. You can see when the AI is setting up an ambush. So now that we know the ambush is somewhere down and right of the town, I just take this roundabout route to approach the town from a different direction. That way I'm able to attack without triggering any ambush. The enemy do have a lot of stuff here, but somehow we get a giant advantage on the balance bar. I thought I was going to have to fight this, but actually looks fine, so we'll go for the auto-resolve. Maybe it's just a case of our troops being really high level and stuff now, so our army is considered to be good. We storm on in, and like that the livestock farm is retaken, and one of the enemy's armies is taken down. That's good stuff, just going to have to wait for the other army to appear. We don't have to wait very long. In the end turn, it comes out of ambush stance and just lays siege to the livestock farm. And speaking of laying siege, things are finally heating up down at the capital. Multiple armies prepare to attack. Then this happens, Yumin Shang's at it again. We have to go to war in the south. Our peace is immediately over. Whoever this is wants to be at war as well. No idea where they are, probably up and right. Most factions are up and right of us, I don't really know. So we'll just ignore that and see if they ever show up. So around the capital we now have plenty of stuff hostile to us, although if Yuan Shu isn't in coalition with Cao Cao, I don't think they can attack at the same time. Plus, Yuan Shu has no supplies and is gradually losing men, whereas our town does have supplies, so we're not taking attrition, meaning leaving the siege and just doing nothing is actually an okay decision there. This is a bad decision. With my trash stack, I should have gone to attack Yumin Shang, but I was really curious about what happens when you rebuild a settlement. I just wanted to try it, so we're going to waste our turn doing this. You don't actually get anything because, like in Attila, it builds a level 0 settlement, a special no building state where you own the territory but it doesn't do anything, and you have to pay extra money to put something there. So now we've just claimed that land. Someone who's not at war with us can't claim it. That's something, I suppose. Now, up north, Gong Du is in trouble here with this siege. He's taking attrition, as you can see, and his army is in terrible condition. This is partially due to the losses we took in the recent auto-resolves, but also it's partially due to an exploit that only the AI can do. It's a subtle thing. It's because attrition in sieges is calculated only in the player's turn for every faction, which means if the AI besieges you and you want to sally, you have to go through one round of attrition first, because it happens just before you get the chance to pick the sally option. However, for the AI that's not the case. If you besiege them in your turn, and then their turn is next, because your turn hasn't happened again yet, no attrition is processed and the enemy can sally at full strength, and they usually do, as we've seen. Pretty cheeky of them. But we're just going to have to deal with this handicap. We're going to take our wrecked army out to try and break this siege. I've thrown some of our units that are on the verge of death at the back here to try and keep them alive. There's those Militia of Virtue, and this other group, the Sky Heralds. They might have actually been the one with infinite morale, can't remember. I'm probably talking rubbish half the time in this commentary anyway. But yes, if they lost a few men, their unit might die, so I'm going to try and keep them alive by not using them if possible. The fight starts quickly because I could guerrilla deploy my horse archers on the enemy's flank right next to their deployment zone. Some Saber Cav came over to chase me away, and we're just going to do a trade there, let them chase one unit away to take those Saber Cav out of the fight for all intents and purposes. They also sent some foot archers to go and attack us. That was a big mistake, because my regular Cav comes down from the right to destroy these archer units. That's a perfect start. Archers are very powerful in this game, so the ideal thing is to kill them before they fire, using exploits just like that. Or tactics, you could even call it. It's barely even an exploit. Meanwhile, the enemy's Cav have charged my front line. My infantry are mostly spears though, so this is okay for us. Here comes a big heavy Cav charge, but they hit their own men partially. And I'm not quite sure, but I think our heavy spears here might have the reflect charges passive ability. This is a thing where if your unit isn't moving and it gets charged, the charge bonus hits the unit that did the charging instead. I believe it only affects cavalry, but long story short, cavalry just die if they charge a spearman, instead of it being the other way round with every other case. As for my own cav, we're charging around hitting enemy units, sometimes even spearmen, and just doing what we can. It is a night attack, so we can be a bit cheeky. And speaking of cheeky, here are some of my half-dead men. They've charged out on their own because these Sky Heralds have some kind of berserk trait where they'll just attack the enemy if they're anywhere nearby. You don't even have to give them any orders. As a result, they are just getting themselves killed. But if that's what they wanted, then fine. Gong Yuan is currently fighting the enemy commander. Gong Yuan is a scholar class, which I think is the Yellow Turban's inferior version of the champion class that normal factions get, meaning they're supposed to be used against officers, so in a rare twist, I'm actually bothering to match the classes there. The enemy's other two officers are right now not doing anything, which is great because my right flank's really exposed. They could totally annihilate me if they wanted to, but fortunately they're just not being very proactive with their cav. And I'm using my half-dead melee cav to just charge anything I can. I think it's probably the same as in old Total Wars, where even if one guy charges the back of the enemy line, that's considered a rear attack. It's a flat debuff on the enemy, so you don't need many men to do outflanking maneuvers for it to have the routing effect. A little bit later, we've got all of their commanders locked down in melee. One's on the front line. Gong Yuan is actually starting to lose her fight with the enemy commander at the back here. Jiang Kai was doing okay, but overall this doesn't matter too much because the enemy's army is chain routing, and that's going to chain route their officers as well. Looks like my horse archers just about survived at the back of the map there and took down the enemy's saber cav. All good stuff. So yes, we did get a bit wrecked in that messy fight. It was very quick. One other result of the animation speeds being increased, which I'm claiming they are, is that fights are over very fast, so that was only a couple of minutes really, meaning it was a little bit hard to follow actually. I do prefer it when they are much longer. It's more tactical that way as well, I would say. But whatever the case, here we are after the battle. The enemy army is totally wrecked and we captured the two subordinate commanders. This is a case where I could release them both because I think that would give me a relationship boost with Lu Bu and I'd be more likely to get a peace deal after this fight. However, one guy had a nice horse we could steal, so we're going to do that. I don't have any special mounts at the moment, so I wanted to get that. And you're not allowed to take someone's horse and leave them alive for whatever reason, so we're going to have to kill him, otherwise the horse won't follow us or something, who knows. We'll also do the recruit thing from the rest of the prisoners to get some of our men back. We did let one guy go there, but it's going to be another one of these cases where you can let enemy officers go and then just immediately kill them anyway, because we want to finish their army off. And this is the start of our turn. We're on full movement points, so we can just pursue their defeated force and hit them again. There we go. This will even further amplify our case for peace, because while giving the enemy's officers back makes them like you a bit, killing all of their men makes them fear you and means all deals you make with them are just more likely to work. And we stole another horse by the looks of things, which is always nice. We'll pop some more replenishment, might have even just about made a profit in troops there. And now is the time for peace. But, as you can see, I'm not going to do it. At this stage, I was feeling kind of confident about the Chang'an situation. I thought we can probably just somehow hold off all of the stuff there. And therefore, I'm not going to bother going down there. I'm going to finish Lu Bu off once and for all before he comes at us with another 3 stacks or something. So that's what I'm setting up for, although it's not actually going to go quite as I planned. Everything is going to get shaken up a little bit now by a new declaration of war. Plus, Yu Minshang's at it again, moving troops into our undefended territory, nice and annoying. But this is the real game changer. Liu Bei declared war on us. And Liu Bei, over the course of the campaign, has steadily been conquering the Han Empire by the looks of things. A very cheeky chappy. So now we do share a gigantic border with Liu Bei, and presumably he has lots of men there as well. Therefore, this declaration of war is the most dangerous one so far, and this could be a bit of an issue. My men in the south are currently way out of position after that weird colonization thing, so they'll have to try and rush back to do something against Yu Minshang. We can't defend against her attacking army, but we can just try and be really annoying with Fan Yao here. Our army is pretty small, but the garrison of the city ahead is small, meaning we can potentially threaten it here, and even if we can't take it, us being here may cause the enemy main force to turn back, so this could be considered a form of defense. Up north near the capital, there's a bit of a risk growing here, because it looks like some of the armies have got bored of the siege and are starting to walk around us. That, on top of the Liu Bei situation, and on top of the fact that Lu Bu is bouncing back with fresh armies real fast, made me think that okay, I'm going to actually finally do what I said I was going to do, and end this war with Lu Bu. And he is like, yes, certainly, he doesn't want to be in this war either, because he's been annihilated so far. I've actually at some point unlocked the ability to negotiate for money in peace deals, so I got some cash off him as well. Long story short, there we have it. So that war's over. And that means I'm now going to do the other thing I said I was going to do and actually move Gongdu to the south towards the capital region. If the enemy do walk past us there, we need a floating army ready to go, otherwise we're going to lose a lot of territory. And as we go into the next end turn sequence, we see that this is indeed a risk for us. Cao Cao is sending an army forwards towards Hanzhong. And also Yu Minshang is continuing her offensive, so she's not going to come back to try and defend her city. Still, might as well just besiege it with our small army, because as I said, there's only a small army defending it, and if they sally, we might be able to beat them. Probably can't get past the towers and stuff, but yes, might as well. And if nothing happens, we could even starve them out, so overall, it's a good idea to try and do something. Liu Bei comes in with a peace deal. He wants me to give him lots of the territory down there in the southwest. I'm guessing that the AI is kind of scripted for the three kingdoms to form, so Liu Bei is trying to put his faction into the position where Shu was historically. But I rejected the deal because I don't want to give up all my territory, and bang, he goes in there with a full stack, that's his main army, with Zhang Fei and Guan Yu in it. So trouble is stirring down there in the south. At least though, two nice things happened. Yuan Shu actually ended his siege at the capital for some reason, and here at Yu Mingshang's capital, they did sally out. So with a bit of micro, we have a chance to win a small victory here before everything really goes downhill.